Hi guys, we have a couple of more questions from section 6.3, assessment A. The first one is number 3. So there are 3 parts, A to C. So I think they're pretty quick, so we can hopefully work for all of them. On part A, we're given the following product of the fractions, 49 over 65 times 26 over 98. Okay, so we asked, the instruction says, of course, to number 3 says, find each of the following product of rational numbers. Remember, rational numbers, of course, are basically referring to these fractions. They're known as rational numbers. And it says to write your answer in simplest form. As you know, every fraction at the end should be written in the simplest form, which means that there are common factors you want to, of course, cancel at the end. Now, you have 2 options. The long one would be to actually multiply normally, which is, of course, the way you multiply to fraction. You go top times top divided by or over bottom times bottom. But then, of course, those numbers are going to be pretty big and ugly. So it's going to be a little tougher to reduce because then you have to find the GCD, the greatest common factor they have in common. The easiest way to do it, of course, is sometime if there are common factors, for example, of course, if there are common factors on top and the bottom, you can cancel. But also if there are common factors crossway, in other words, if these 2 numbers have any common factor, you can also cancel. Also, similarly, if these 2 numbers have any common factor, you can cancel. So basically, that's the way I always like to do mine. The good thing is once you find all the common factors crossway and also on top and the bottom, then when you multiply the final result, then you will always have it completely reduced. So you don't have to go back and try to reduce it because you already did. Now, it just happened at 49. I'm going to leave that alone for now. Now, there are many, many different ways you can recognize the common factor. You can, of course, do prime factorization. But sometimes the size of the numbers, if they're not that big, you may be able to actually make some quicker observations. So this is actually 65 is 13 times 5. Now, why is that important? Because 26 is also 13 times 2. And 98 actually happened to be 49 times 2. So you see what we tried to do here. We tried to come up with all the factors that maybe they're common crossway or, of course, on top and the bottom. So here's what I can see. The factor 13 kills or cancels the factor 13 there. The factor 49 cancels the 49 up here. The 2 upstairs and downstairs also cancel each other. So at the very end of the day, in this case, you will end up with, well, since everything kind of got canceled, of course, you're still going to have a 1 on the very top left. And then on the bottom, everything canceled except the factor 5. And so in this case, your final conclusion after you reduce, again, each of the fractions and also reduce the crossway, any common factor, and then you multiply the result, and that's your answer, okay? So 3B. Now, B and C involve letters, but of course, it's the same idea. So in part B, you're asked to multiply A over B times B squared over A squared. So this is actually the same logic, and as you can see, even though you have letters, the same concept applies. If you see a common factor crossway, cancel them. Well, 1 factor of A cancels 1 factor of A, because remember, A squared means A times A, so you're just left with 1 factor of A left. Also, 1 factor of B cancels 1 factor of B, so you just left 1 factor of B on top. Okay, so on the top, you just left with B. On the bottom, you're left with only factor of A. So at the end of the day, B over A would be the reduced form of this product. Okay, so it's the same concept as here, except here you're canceling common factors in variable or letters. Here, of course, you're dealing with numbers. Okay, but the same exact concept. Okay, let me see if I can get the last one in, and then I may have to continue. If I get cut off, I'll do another video on the next problem, which I believe is number 11. Okay, but let me do part C also real quick. So part C, again, this is number 3, part C, section again, same section, 6.38. So part C, of course, we're given X times Y over Z, and that's being multiplied by Z squared times A over X cubed times Y squared. So this concept is pretty much the same. Doesn't matter again whether you have letters. numbers. So once again, I see 1 factor of x here, cancels 1 factor, which leaves you with basically x squared, 2 more factor left. Also, you have 1 factor of z cancels 1 factor of z, which pretty much leaves you with just z. 1 factor of y cancels 1 factor of y, which leaves you again with just y. I'll put the 1, but anything to first power is itself. So let's see what we're left with. Well, the x canceled, the y canceled. From the z square, you're left with just z. You still have the a. So now you have upstairs, za. And then downstairs, of course, you had x squared left, because remember, you cancel 1 factor of x. So I left you with the x squared, and also 1 factor of y left. So that would be your final reduced form of the product of these two fractions. So again, it's all about manipulating common factors, cancel them out crossway, or top and the bottom of the same fraction. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this on this one, and then I'll start another one on the next problem.